In the long dawn of human existence, before the inventions of writing, agriculture, or cities, our ancestors roamed the vast wilds of the world guided by instincts honed over countless millennia. Their days were governed not by clocks but by rising and setting suns, the movements of animals, the scent of ripening fruit, and the ever-present challenge of survival. These ancestors, whose lives were far more precarious and immediate than ours, bequeathed to us an inheritance deeper than language or culture, a foundation of primal instincts etched into the architecture of our brains. Consider that even in today's world, with all its modernity and complexity, the basic wiring of the human mind is little changed from those ancient days. The urges that compelled Paleolithic hunter-gatherers to fight, to flee, to seek comfort, to protect kin, to hoard resources, to watch for threat, remain with us. Sometimes camouflaged beneath layers of education and custom, yet undeniably persistent. It is as if we all carry within us a silent blueprint of a world long vanished, a world of wild rivers, stalking predators, dense forests, and unpredictable weather. Each day, the inherited echoes of that earlier existence gently tug at our choices, emotions, and behaviors. Much of this enduring legacy begins with survival itself. In an era where daily life could be appended by the sudden appearance of a saber-toothed cat or the slow encroachment of winter famine, those who responded swiftly to danger stood the greatest chance of living and shaping the future. The famous fight or flight response, for example, is not simply a metaphor for stressful situations but a profound neurological mechanism. In the face of sudden threat, real or perceived, the human body floods with adrenaline. Heart rates climb, muscles ready, attention narrows. This same cascade still grips modern humans in scenarios as routine as giving a public presentation or encountering a suspicious stranger in the night. For the brain's most ancient parts, such as the amygdala and the brainstem, remain exquisitely sensitive to signals of threat and safety. This deep sensitivity creates a peculiar mismatch with modern life. Our neighborhoods are safer than prehistoric plains, yet we can still startle at the sudden bark of a dog or the unexpected ring of a phone. We possess instinctive fears of snakes, spiders, and heights, hazards that once menaced our ancestors, though now less dangerous to us than urban traffic or processed foods. Our senses are attuned to movement at the forest's edge, the flicker of eyes, or the rustle in the grass. Patterns that ancient hunter-gatherers learned to read as the difference between a meal and a mortal threat. Even today, new research reveals that people pay closer attention to animals and faces than to inanimate objects, a residue of an instinctive vigilance that once governed survival. Yet, survival was never purely an individual endeavor. From the earliest times, humans clustered in small bands bound by blood and alliance. Within these groups, another layer of instinct revealed itself, the profound need for connection, belonging, and loyalty. Tribalism flourished because the group was a shield against starvation, predators, and rival bands. Those who successfully navigated the tides of group dynamics, cooperating, reciprocating, signaling loyalty, defending their kin, were the ones most likely to pass on their genes. These social instincts persist today with astonishing power. Humans still sort themselves into groups, families, clans, teams, nations, and feel deep loyalty to those who share their codes and culture. We experience pride at collective achievements, anger at perceived betrayal, and suspicion of the outsider. These tribal boundaries are reinforced not just by socialization, but by neural circuits tuned to trust, empathy, and the detection of subtle social cues. Even the peer instinct, the urge to copy the actions and opinions of influential group members, played a vital role in building cultures and transmitting knowledge in prehistory. And it continues to shape everything from fashion trends to political movements in the modern age. Aggression and dominance are as old as these loyalties. Within every human group, subtle contests for status, mating rights, and control of resources played out in dances as old as time. Dominance hierarchies, common to many social mammals, emerged to reduce open conflict and create structure. The rituals of boasting, challenging, and sometimes physical confrontation determined who led and who followed. These same urges, tempered and redirected, manifest today in corporate boardrooms, political campaigns, competitive sports, and even academic debates. The ancient template remains intact. Those with power or status attract allies, control resources, and shape the direction of the group. Yet, evolution did not make us solely aggressive or loyal. It also equipped us with a paradoxical drive toward empathy and cooperation. Early humans who could intuit the feelings, intentions, and needs of others became valuable group members. Shared childcare, food distribution, and collaborative hunting required the capacity to read faces, understand motives, and even to deceive when necessary. These skills, subtle and sophisticated, are the roots of emotional intelligence, morality, and complex social relationships. The capacity for sympathy, for weeping at another's pain or sharing in another's joy, is as ancient as the urge to hoard or compete. Another enduring instinct is the urge to accumulate. In times of unpredictable weather, scarce food, and shifting herds, prehistory rewarded those who could store resources for lean days. Greed, today viewed as a vice, was once a life-saving virtue. The hoarding of food, tools, and information increased the odds of survival in hard times. Now, in a world of abundance, the same instinct leads to overconsumption, materialism, and economic inequality. The urge persists, reshaping itself to the contours of every new environment. Sexual and reproductive drives are likewise rooted in ancient circuits. The polarization of risk and reward, cautious mate selection, parental investment, sexual competition, has sculpted not only human relationships but entire societies. The rituals surrounding courtship, jealousy, child-rearing, and even storytelling originate in the primal logic of gene propagation, finding healthy partners, producing viable offspring, ensuring their survival long enough for the cycle to repeat. These forces are everywhere, subtle or blatant, in art, religion, law, and daily behavior. Humans also inherited a gift and curse for denial, a capacity to look away from uncomfortable truths when action or acknowledgement would be too costly. In prehistory, denial helped coping with overwhelming loss, danger, or grief. In modern times, it enables us to ignore existential threats like climate change or overpopulation, with consequences both adaptive and destructive. Throughout the ages, these instincts clashed and cooperated with the rise of language, myth, technology, and culture. as prehistoric bands gave shape to villages, cities, and empires. The same neural blueprints found new expression, sometimes for great good, sometimes with tragic result. Cultures and religions have tried to tame, sublimate, or redirect our base instincts, layering laws, creeds, and customs atop the primal urges that still lurk in every heart. But beneath the varnish of civilization, those ancient signals still pulse, guiding ambitions, fears, passions, and allegiances. From the dawn fire circles of ancestral Africa to the neon-lit bustle of today's metropolises, the enduring story of humanity is woven through with these prehistoric instincts. Their persistence is not a sign of failure, but of immense adaptability, a testament to the unbroken chain of survival and reproduction that brought us here. Each person, every day, negotiates this complex inheritance, at times the master of ancient drives, at other times their captive or custodian. In this ongoing story, the challenge is not to erase or deny our prehistoric impulses, but to understand and integrate them so that the wisdom of the past can inform the choices of the future. The journey of humanity is, in no small part, the journey of learning how to be both animal and artisan, both instinct and intellect, builder and bearer of a primeval spark that burns undimmed beneath all modern layers. As the prehistoric world stretched vast and unpredictable before humanity's earliest ancestors, the brain's primal architecture adapted through countless cycles of trial and error, embedding behaviors optimized for survival in an uncertain environment. One crucial domain was the instinctual perception and reaction to danger, a survival mechanism that demanded rapid assessment and action. This ancient vigilance, known as threat detection, remains fundamental to human cognition and emotional life. In the wild, threats came in many forms, predators stalking silently through dense undergrowth, sudden storms that could sweep away unprotected shelters, rival bands of humans competing for scarce resources, and poisonous plants whose bitter taste warned of unseen danger. Early humans developed sensory sensitivities that prioritized quick recognition of these risks. Subtle cues, a flash of movement, the howl of a distant predator, a sudden drop in temperature, triggered neural circuits that mobilized immediate responses. This hyper-awareness made early humans adept at pattern recognition, able to swiftly separate friend from foe, safe from unsafe, edible from toxic. Interestingly, this preserved sensitivity created biases and heuristics that persist unnervingly today. Modern humans experience anxiety around ambiguous stimuli. The better safe than sorry principle deeply wired into decisions, even where danger is minimal. Nighttime fears, the instinctive stress of unfamiliar places, or even benign social situations can evoke primitive, defensive reactions that once kept our ancestors alive. Closely tied to danger awareness was the evolution of communication, vital for coordinating within groups and alerting others to threats or opportunities. While complex language emerged fully later in human history, earlier forms of communication involved gestures, vocalizations, facial expressions, and body language. These modes relied heavily on the ability to read minute social cues quickly, a skill modern humans still excel at subconsciously. The so-called social brain hypothesis suggests that evolving larger brains enabled the sophisticated social cognition required to manage increasing group sizes and complex interactions. This capacity for nuanced social perception underpinned the development of empathy and cooperation. Prehistoric humans who could interpret the needs and emotions of others had a survival advantage. Shared resources could be distributed when one member faltered. Collective defense was enhanced by synchronized action, and caring for the young demanded mutual effort. Cooperation required trust building, and trust depended on reputational awareness, knowing which members would reciprocate favors and which would cheat or free ride. Modern human communities carry these ancient principles in their social contingencies, policies, and traditions. Another enduring feature of prehistoric human behavior was play. Though at first glance play might seem frivolous amidst the daily existential struggles, it was and remains a critical learning mechanism. Play allowed young members of groups to develop physical coordination, social skills, and problem-solving abilities in a low-stakes environment. Play fighting, for example, honed motor skills and taught individuals the limits of strength and social boundaries. Such behaviors have obvious analogues in human childhood and even adult recreational activities today. Food acquisition and resource management form another vast area shaped deeply by prehistoric instincts. The imperative to find, store, and share food pressed human cognition toward planning, memory, and cooperation. Early hunter-gatherers tracked migratory patterns of animals and seasonal availability of plants, discerning complex ecological rhythms. The knowledge of where and when food might be found was carefully transmitted orally across generations, a foundational form of culture. Sharing food was not merely a practical matter, but also a social one. Reciprocal food sharing fostered alliances and cemented social bonds. It moderated risk by smoothing out fluctuations in individual fortunes. If one hunter returned empty-handed, others might share their catch, ensuring group survival. This evolved into a sense of fairness and justice that underpin social morality even now. The sharing instinct also acted as a bulwark against selfishness, balancing competition within groups. Closely linked to resource management is the instinct of territoriality. Even before formalized property concepts, prehistoric humans were sensitive to boundaries around resource-rich zones. Territorial behaviors involved both defense of these zones and negotiation or avoidance of conflict with neighbors. The impulse to claim one's space underpins many contemporary behaviors, from national borders to personal space, reflecting this primeval drive to control safe and resourceful environments. The duality of conflict and cooperation in prehistoric life led to the formation of complex social hierarchies. Status was often achieved through displays of strength, wisdom, generosity, or alliance building. These dominance hierarchies reduced constant physical confrontations by establishing social order and roles. Rituals likely emerged to formalize status recognition with symbolic behaviors, rites of passage, and social ceremonies. The pervasive human fascination with leadership, prestige, and social ranking has deep prehistoric roots in these patterns. Mating and reproductive behaviors were also shaped by evolutionary priorities to maximize reproductive success and offspring survival. Sexual selection influenced traits valued in mates: physical prowess, intelligence, resource-gathering ability, social status, and caregiving capacity. These priorities, while culturally moderated today, still influence human attraction, courtship, jealousy, and family structures. Parental investment, particularly in human ancestors with relatively long childhood dependency, shaped caregiving norms and the importance of pair bonds and extended kin networks. A fascinating and somewhat paradoxical prehistoric legacy is the human capacity for imagination and symbolic thought. While harder to pin down instinctually, the emergence of art, ritual, and myth reflects cognitive abilities linked to pattern recognition and social learning, but pushed into abstract realms. Cave paintings, figurines, and burial rites suggest that early humans conceived of unseen forces, spirits, and narratives that helped them explain and cope with the mysteries and dangers of their world. This symbolic capacity enabled shared identities and cultural transmission on scales previously unimaginable. Fear and denial also played vital roles in prehistoric survival. Denying or downplaying threats could protect psychological resilience in times of trauma or loss. While this served adaptive purposes in prehistoric contexts, modern parallels can be seen in collective denial of pressing crises, such as environmental degradation, highlighting the ambivalence of some ancient instincts when transposed onto new realities. Throughout the unfolding of history, human beings have oscillated between yielding to and mastering their prehistoric instincts. Civilizations built laws to mitigate aggression, religious codes to promote cooperation, and philosophies to channel desires into ethical frameworks. Yet, beneath the veneer of culture, these primal currents continue to shape emotions, politics, economics, and identities. The persistence of prehistoric instincts is both a source of strength and a challenge. They underpin resilience, adaptability, creativity, and social cohesion, while also fueling conflict, inequality, and anxiety. Understanding their origins and mechanics grants valuable insight into human nature, offering pathways to harness and refine these primal forces constructively. By embracing the continuity between past and present, recognizing that every modern choice echoes an ancient survival strategy, we can appreciate both the continuity and innovation that mark the human saga. Our prehistoric heritage is not a relic, but a living foundation, a wellspring of capacities and dilemmas that have propelled humanity forward and will continue to do so. The interplay between individual survival instincts and social dynamics crafted a delicate balance in prehistoric human life. On one hand, the imperative to protect and advance oneself could breed competition, jealousy, and conflict. On the other hand, the necessity of group cohesion, sharing food, cooperating in hunts, caring for offspring, mandated empathy, communication, and trust. This tension shaped the very foundations of what it means to be human. One primal behavior manifesting from this tension is the development of rituals and customs that regulated social relations and transformed raw impulses into predictable patterns. From the earliest burial rites that honored the dead and possibly eased communal grief to the communal dances that solidified group identity, ritual provided a framework for managing emotions and conflicts that might otherwise threaten cohesion. These rituals often involved repetitive, symbol-rich actions that aligned individuals with the rhythms of nature and with each other, embedding social norms and expectations deeply into the psyche. Closely linked to ritual was the capacity for symbolic thought and language. Language development itself arose not only to communicate immediate needs, alerts about dangers or coordination in hunting, but also to convey abstract concepts such as social contracts, kinship ties, and spiritual beliefs. The capacity to tell stories about ancestors, heroes, and myths forged collective memory and identity. These early narratives tethered individuals to a larger social and cosmic order, giving meaning to struggle, loss, and triumph beyond the immediate moment. Animals and nature figured heavily in prehistoric, symbolic life, reflecting an instinctive connection to the environment that was both practical and spiritual. Early humans depended on tracking animal patterns for food and feared powerful predators. Embedding these relationships into stories and taboos. Totemism and animism, the attribution of spiritual essence to animals. Plants and natural features likely stemmed from this primal bond, helping humans conceptualize their place within a larger ecosystem. These beliefs reinforced respect for nature's cycles, while also justifying social hierarchies and roles through mythic foundations. Resource scarcity, unpredictability, and danger cultivated another instinctual tendency, paranoia and suspicion toward outsiders. Prehistoric hunter-gatherer bands were small and vulnerable, and any unknown person or group posed potential threats, whether as competitors for food, mates, or territory, or as sources of disease and conflict. Such wariness led to a cautious approach toward strangers, a tendency that endures as xenophobia or suspicion of foreign groups. At the same time, selective cooperation and alliance building between groups shaped early patterns of diplomacy and trade. Humans learned when to trust and when to withhold, balancing inclusive sharing with protective exclusion. A potent, but often overlooked, instinct carried from prehistory is the human penchant for storytelling and myth-making. Humans naturally seek patterns and causal explanations as a means of reducing anxiety and uncertainty. The creation of myths, narratives explaining the origins of the world, customs, and social order, serve to unify groups, transmit values, and consolidate power. Myths also channel collective fears and hopes into culturally sanctioned forms, providing a psychological safety valve for individuals and societies. In mating and family life, prehistoric instincts found intricate expression. Pair bonding, though variable across cultures, became central to child rearing, ensuring the prolonged care demanded by human offspring's lengthy development. However, sexual jealousy, competition, and mate selection pressures created complex social dynamics. Practices such as arranged pairings, polygamy, or ritual courtship evolved in part as cultural responses to these innate drives, channeling biological imperatives into socially organized frameworks. Parental investment also generated profound emotional bonds that both differentiated human social structures and fueled altruism. Mothers and fathers who invested heavily in offspring's survival tended to form attachments not seen in many other species. This nurturance expanded beyond the nuclear family in many groups, fostering communal caregiving systems. The instinct to protect children shaped behaviors around safety, group defense, and education, fostering the transmission of essential survival skills and cultural knowledge. Cognitive flexibility is another remarkable legacy from prehistoric times. Humans evolved not only hardwired instincts, but also the capacity to reinterpret, override, or adapt those impulses depending on circumstance. This plasticity allowed individuals and groups to innovate solutions, create tools, develop complex language, and form large societies. Instincts, while foundational, were never purely deterministic. Culture and consciousness allowed humans to modulate their drives, blending inherited behaviors with reason and creativity. This blend of instinct and intellect is evident in the human relationship with aggression. While raw violence could threaten group survival, humans developed socially regulated forms of conflict resolution. Ritualized combat, diplomacy, law, and moral codes that tempered instinctual impulses, reducing destructiveness and fostering cooperation. These cultural mechanisms enabled societies to grow larger and more complex than any other primate group, marking a turning point in our shared history. Moreover, the prehistoric instinct of curiosity continues to propel discovery and innovation. The urge to explore new territories, experiment with new tools, and solve problems reflects an adaptive drive that expanded human horizons from the African savanna to every continent. Curiosity is not merely intellectual but deeply emotional, linking wonder with survival. It underwrote early migrations, artistic expression, and technological progress, continually reshaping environments and societies. Many of these ancient behaviors also stem from the human need for status and reputation within groups, crucial for access to resources and mates. Displays of skill, generosity, bravery, or wisdom served as social currency, conferring prestige and influence. These status signals often became codified into social roles and leadership patterns, influencing the organization of communities and hierarchies that persist today. The intersection of prehistoric instincts and modern psychology reveals fascinating continuities. The brain structures driving these behaviors are embedded in subcortical areas predating the evolution of the neocortex, explaining their tenacity and automatic nature. Even highly educated, rational individuals experience fear, tribal loyalty, competitive drive, or empathy that trace back to these primal neural circuits. Understanding this can foster self-awareness and empathy for others' behaviors rooted in deep evolutionary pasts. Psychological phenomena such as cognitive biases, including in-group favoritism, confirmation bias, and risk aversion, have roots in prehistoric adaptive strategies. By recognizing these inherited tendencies in modern contexts, humans can better evaluate their decision-making, social interactions, and cultural conflicts. The prehistoric inheritance also extends into the sensory realm. Humans still manifest preference for certain colors, patterns, and environments that historically increased survival chances. Preferences for landscapes with water, trees, and open skies. The so-called savanna hypothesis may reflect an instinct to settle in resource-rich, safe environments. Similarly, aesthetic appreciation for symmetry and prosocial facial expressions echoes evolutionary signals of health and trustworthiness. Despite the remarkable continuity of prehistoric instincts, human history also is a story of transformation and transcendence. The rise of agriculture, urbanization, and technology required the modification of or resistance to some primal tendencies, delayed gratification, abstract reasoning, cultural learning, and emotional regulation. Human cultures developed institutions and ideologies to channel instincts into collective benefits, suppress destructive behaviors, and promote social harmony. Yet, the tension between inherited instincts and cultural evolution has produced enduring struggles. Conflicts born of territoriality, fear of others, competition for status, and resource hoarding persist globally. Simultaneously, capacities for empathy, cooperation, and altruism shine as counterforces, illustrating the dual nature of the human condition. Our prehistoric ancestry remains a living legacy, not a thing merely of the distant past, but a dynamic presence shaping individual lives and human societies. By deepening understanding of these primal roots, humans can better navigate the complexities of modern existence, harnessing ancient strengths and mitigating inherited vulnerabilities. This ongoing dialogue between instinct and innovation invites reflection on what it means to be human, and how we might craft a future informed by the wisdom of our ancient heritage. The survival strategies of our ancestors still echo in our emotions, choices, and social patterns, offering both challenges and insights as humanity continues its remarkable journey. The delicate balance between our prehistoric instincts and the complex societies we have built continues to resonate throughout human history, influencing not only large-scale developments, but also the most intimate facets of personal and group life. As early humans transitioned from nomadic bands to settled agricultural communities, many ancient instincts adapted or came into tension with new ways of living, while others persisted with remarkable resilience. One of the most impactful prehistoric impulses that underwent transformation during this shift was territoriality. In hunter-gatherer groups, territory was vast and loosely controlled, with overlapping ranges used cooperatively or through negotiated avoidance. However, the adoption of agriculture and permanent settlements redefined territory into fixed, defendable plots of land between neighboring communities. Elders and leaders oversaw boundaries marking ownership and resource rights, giving rise to early concepts of property, warfare, and diplomacy. The deep-rooted instinct to protect and claim territory often led to intergroup conflicts, raids, and conquest over fertile lands and water sources, resources critical for survival. These territorial disputes laid the groundwork for organized warfare, the formation of armies, and the establishment of states. Yet the same instinct found expression in social rituals emphasizing group identity and loyalty, helping internal cohesion against external threats. Flags, symbols, and later national anthems echo this prehistoric tune of belonging and defense. Social hierarchies expanded in scale and complexity as communities grew. The instinctual dynamics of dominance and submission played out on broader canvases as chiefs, kings, and eventually emperors consolidated power, often justifying authority through divine sanction or ancestral lineage. Yet power relations always rested on ancient behavioral substrates, alliances, displays, negotiations, and conflict resolution deeply embedded in human psychology. Trade networks offered a different but complementary pathway that shaped human history. built on trust, reciprocity, and reputation management drawn from our social instincts. Across vast distances, early traders relied on shared signals of honesty and dependable relationships nurtured over generations. These networks allowed exchange, not only of goods but also ideas, innovations, and cultural customs, weaving a rich tapestry of human interaction grounded in the fundamental drive for connection and mutual benefit. The prehistoric drive toward cooperation extended into innovations of shared labor and knowledge transmission. In early agricultural societies, communal work on irrigation, planting, and harvesting spread workload and risk. The accumulated wisdom of seasons, weather patterns, and domesticated species was carefully passed down through oral traditions and practical apprenticeship, preserving a cultural memory that transcended individual lifespans. Within these growing communities, the instinctive emphasis on kinship expanded to include larger social constructs like clans, tribes, and eventually ethnic and linguistic groups. Kinship systems governed marriage patterns, inheritance, and mutual aid, reflecting the evolutionary imperative to support relatives who share genetic material. Simultaneously, these affiliations fostered social identity and created frameworks for social norms and legal codes that intensified the complexity of human cooperation. Religious and spiritual beliefs, deeply rooted in prehistoric symbolism, matured into organized religions that shaped ethics, laws, and community cohesion. The human inclination to find meaning and order in the universe, stemming from prehistoric myth-making, manifested in narratives explaining origins, morality, and cosmic justice. Rituals and festivals embedded cyclical time, a fundamental concept linked to the wheel of life and natural patterns observed since ancient times, instilling order and reinforcing social bonds. Emotional regulation, a sophisticated outgrowth of prehistoric empathy and social intelligence, gained heightened significance in large societies. Leadership required not just physical strength, but emotional skill in mediating disputes, inspiring loyalty, and managing resources fairly, or at least convincingly. The ability to read others' expressions and intentions, to communicate effectively, and to project trustworthy authority became critical for maintaining order and facilitating cooperation on scales unimaginable to early ancestors. At the level of individual psychology, the legacy of prehistoric survival instincts manifests in universal human experiences of fear, joy, grief, and affection. The brain's ancient threat detection systems still respond to stimuli resembling those of ancestral dangers. Darkness, sudden movements, ambiguous noises, even as human environments change drastically. Stress responses shaped during millennia of acute survival needs become chronic challenges in modern contexts, revealing the tension between Paleolithic wiring and 21st century life. Human curiosity, another fundamental prehistoric impulse, powered exploration, innovation, and cultural flourishing. The urge to understand and manipulate the environment led to toolmaking, art, language, and technology. From the first carved flint tools to the invention of writing, printing, and the internet, this drive continues to expand human horizons intellectually and physically. In fact, one might argue that curiosity is a defining trait that allowed Homo sapiens to outcompete other hominins and dominate ecosystems globally. Competition, a double-edged prehistoric instinct, contributed to both advancement and conflict. On small scales, competitive behaviors fostered skill, refinement, innovation, and social status. On larger scales, competition between groups led to conquest, cultural assimilation, and at times destruction. The complex dance between competition and cooperation remains salient today, posing persistent challenges in politics, economics, and interpersonal relationships. The mechanisms of punishment and reward, stemming from early social regulation needs, form the backbone of human morality and justice systems. Fairness, reciprocity, and accountability evolved to encourage cooperation and discourage cheating, ensuring group survival. Modern legal structures and ethical codes are sophisticated cultural elaborations of these primordial instincts, illustrating how biological predispositions become cultural institutions. In child development, the imprint of prehistoric instincts is striking. Human infants are born relatively helpless, necessitating prolonged caregiving, a strategy that evolved to accommodate large brains and complex socialization. The bonding, behaviors, attachment patterns, and play structures observed in children today are direct continuations of prehistoric strategies for survival and learning. The importance of early socialization in shaping empathy, cooperation, and cultural understanding cannot be overstated, as it establishes the foundation for later participation in society. Migration and settlement patterns, both ancient and recent, are influenced by instincts to seek familiar landscapes, form communities, and avoid unknown threats. Historical movements of peoples, from early hominins dispersing out of Africa to modern diasporas, reflect the continuation of balance between exploration and caution. Technological development itself mirrors prehistoric cognitive capacities such as problem-solving, planning, and symbolic thinking. The invention of the wheel itself, for instance, is a testament to these timeless cognitive skills. Each new tool or social invention can be seen as a dialogue between inherited instincts and emergent cultural solutions. At the psychological level, phenomena such as cognitive dissonance, denial, and bias also root deeply in evolutionary adaptations. Humans evolved mental shortcuts and mechanisms to reduce stress and uncertainty, but these can lead to blind spots or irrational choices today. Awareness of these tendencies is key to overcoming limitations and fostering wiser decision-making. In sum, the prehistoric instincts and behaviors encoded in our brains have been both the foundation and the friction in humanity's journey. They predispose us toward survival, connection, and creativity, but also toward conflict, fear, and inequity. The challenge of history has been, and remains, to channel these ancient forces toward collective flourishing within ever more complex societies. This intricate dance between instinct and culture, biology and innovation, remains the heartbeat of human existence. Embracing a deep understanding of our prehistoric roots provides invaluable guidance as we navigate contemporary challenges of globalization, technology, and environment. It reminds us that beneath all diversity and progress lies a shared heritage of primal drives that continue to shape who we are and who we may yet become as human societies further evolved. The ineradicable imprint of prehistoric instincts blended with emergent cultural frameworks to both enable and complicate the trajectory of civilization. The persistent tug of primal urges acted as an undercurrent beneath the layers of social organization, technology, and belief systems, continually influencing individual and collective behavior in complex, often paradoxical ways. One salient domain where this interplay is evident is the evolution of leadership and governance. Throughout prehistory and history, the instinctual dynamics of dominance, trust building, and alliance formation have defined how leaders rose and maintained power. Human groups, whether small bands or sprawling empires, required figures who could mediate conflicts, coordinate resources, and inspire collective action. These leaders often combined displays of strength and charisma with social intelligence, abilities deeply rooted in prehistoric social cognition. Early tribal chiefs and warlords could be seen as embodiments of ancestral dominance hierarchies, asserting their status through physical prowess or strategic cunning. Yet, as societies grew larger and more complex, successful leaders increasingly relied on negotiation. Symbolic authority and institutional structures, emerging tools for transcending brute force. The rituals, ceremonies, and symbols surrounding leadership, thrones, crowns, heraldry, echo prehistoric signaling mechanisms used to assert rank and create social cohesion. Interestingly, the worship of divine kings or the sacralization of rulers reflects prehistoric tendencies toward myth-making and attributing supernatural sanction to power. This merging of authority with spiritual legitimacy helped glue social orders together, mitigating conflicts inherent in hierarchical systems by infusing them with cosmic meaning. The psychological comfort derived from such beliefs can be traced back to primal desires for order and protection in an uncertain world. These political and social evolutions also intersected with prehistoric instincts of fairness and reciprocal altruism. Systems of justice, law, and morality developed, codifying rules for interaction, punishment, and reward. From customary laws enforced by elders in small communities to complex jurisprudence in empires, humans have sought to regulate behavior to optimize social stability and cooperation. At their core, such systems reflect evolved mechanisms for incentivizing pro-social behavior and deterring free riders, a necessity in groups far too large for personal monitoring. This balancing act between individual selfishness and group benefit also manifested in economic systems rooted in prehistoric resource management. The instinct to hoard or conserve, critical in environments of scarcity, intermingled with tendencies for sharing and reciprocity to form the foundation of trade and wealth accumulation. Markets and currencies, though cultural inventions, can be viewed as extensions of these primal drives, formalizing and expanding the web of exchanges that began with food sharing. Yet, the ancient impulse toward accumulation also seeded tensions and inequalities. The same instincts that once saved lives by storing surplus now, in civilizations with abundant resources, have contributed to economic stratification and social conflict. Large-scale property ownership, inheritance rights, and class systems all rest on shadows cast by prehistoric resource control strategies refracted through centuries of culture and history. Human aggression Another prehistoric, legacy, presents a similarly complex picture. Violent conflict between individuals, groups, and nations can be traced to ancestral competition for mates, resources, and territories. But alongside this, humans have developed cultural mechanisms to channel aggression, such as ritualized combat, legal prohibition, and diplomatic negotiation. The paradox of aggression and cooperation in human societies reveals an enduring dialectic grounded in ancient neurological wiring. The arts, sciences, and religions, seemingly far removed from primal survival, also have roots in prehistoric instincts. The human urge to create, to express, to understand, originates in cognitive and social capacities evolved to interpret and influence the environment. Symbolic thought, storytelling, and ritual offered means of managing anxiety, enhancing group identity, and passing knowledge. Over time, these capacities blossomed into diverse cultural expressions that shaped the trajectory of civilization. For instance, the prehistoric practice of ritual burial reveals an early grappling with death, a manifestation of cognitive empathy and existential awareness that has reverberated through millennia. The arts, from cave paintings to music and dance, likely emerged as adaptive behaviors enhancing social bonds and mental resilience. The aesthetic sensibility that draws humans toward symmetry, rhythm, and beauty echoes evolutionary signals for health, safety, and cohesion. Technological innovation also traces to a prehistoric foundation of curiosity, problem-solving, and tool-making rooted in instinctual drives for mastery and adaptation. The wheel itself, as explored earlier, embodies this synthesis of biological and cognitive evolution. The capacity to envision and construct new tools allowed Homo sapiens to colonize diverse environments and achieve ecological dominance. Emotions and psychological processes inherited from prehistory continue to mold human experiences profoundly. Anxiety, love, grief, humor, jealousy, pride, and forgiveness are intertwined with biologically ancient brain circuits shaped by millennia of natural selection. Understanding these emotional substrates helps explain persistent challenges in mental health and social relationships. Modern phenomena, such as the formation of echo chambers, tribalism in politics, or the persistence of prejudice, can often be traced to intact prehistoric social instincts that favored in-group cohesion and out-group suspicion. This awareness invites reflection on how culture and education might moderate or redirect such impulses to foster greater inclusivity and understanding. Throughout history, humans have negotiated the tension between the shadow of their primal instincts and the light of cultural evolution. From early religious codes that sought to regulate desire and aggression, to Enlightenment ideals promoting reason and universal rights, this negotiation continues. The persistence of prehistoric instincts is not regressive, but rather a substrate on which humanity constructs richer, more nuanced modes of existence. In daily life, the residue of these instincts manifests in myriad ways. From the unconscious mirroring of another's emotions, crucial for empathy, to the powerful allure of storytelling and myth, feeding identity and purpose. Our social media interactions echo ancient needs for belonging and reputation, while consumer behavior reflects deep-seated drives for status and security. In the end, the prehistoric inheritance is a tapestry of impulses, instincts, and tendencies, both adaptive and challenging, that have shaped human history and continue to influence the present. Recognizing and understanding this heritage equips us with tools to navigate the complexities of modern life with awareness, compassion, and creativity. As we delve deeper into the enduring imprint of prehistoric instincts on contemporary human life, it becomes clear that these primal behaviors permeate not only individual psychology, but also the structural patterns of societies and cultures. These ancient drives intertwine with modern complexities, influencing how people organize their communities, engage with each other, and navigate ever-evolving environments. One critical domain shaped by prehistoric instincts is the human tendency toward social identity and group affiliation. The instinct to belong to a group, initially a survival mechanism ensuring protection, resource sharing, and cooperative hunting, continues to influence how people self-categorize along ethnic, cultural, religious, national, and ideological lines. These affiliations provide psychological security and a sense of meaning, anchoring individuals in communities much larger and more abstract than the small bands of early humans. But the flip side of this instinct is the potent force of in-group favoritism and out-group suspicion, which can escalate into conflict, discrimination, and tribalism. Throughout history and in the present day, these dynamics manifest in social cohesion as well as social division. The urge to protect one's own can solidify powerful bonds within communities, fostering solidarity and collective action during times of crisis or celebration. Rituals, shared narratives, and symbols serve as manifestations of this primal urge, helping groups reinforce identity and delineate boundaries. However, when unchecked, this same instinct can fuel xenophobia, sectarian violence, and polarization, reflecting the shadow of ancient wariness toward outsiders. Another dimension where prehistoric behavior exerts a strong influence is in human leadership and authority structures. Humans have evolved a nuanced sensitivity to dominance hierarchies and social rank, qualities developed in early groups to reduce constant physical conflict while maintaining order. Leaders who show confidence, competence, generosity, or form strategic alliances tend to rise in status, a pattern deeply embedded in the social brain. This predisposition can be seen in the variation of leadership styles, from authoritarian strength to charismatic persuasion and cooperative governance, all echoing ancient mechanisms for maintaining group cohesion and decision-making. Instinctively, humans are wired to watch for signals of trustworthiness and threat in others. Facial expressions, tone of voice, body language, skills critical to survival in prehistoric social environments. These cues inform interpersonal relationships, negotiations, and political allegiance even today. Our brains rapidly process subtle signals outside conscious awareness, shaping emotional reactions and social judgments. Emotions, themselves products of prehistoric survival needs, remain powerful forces driving behavior. Fear, anger, joy, and empathy evolved as adaptive responses, fear triggering avoidance of danger, anger signaling assertion of boundaries, joy reinforcing beneficial behaviors, empathy enabling social bonding and cooperation. These emotions are modulated by modern cognition, but remain rooted in ancient neurobiological circuits. Understanding the evolutionary origin of emotional responses sheds light on why certain fears persist despite changing environments, or why positive social interactions have profound effects on well-being. The instinctual drive to seek status and recognition is another thread running through human history. Displays of skill, generosity, beauty, or intelligence evolved as social signals to attract mates and allies, reinforcing individual survival and reproductive success. Social competition manifests today not only in physical domains but also in intellectual, economic, and cultural arenas. Consumer culture, fame-seeking, behavior, and social media dynamics all reflect this fundamental human desire to be noticed and valued. Parental investment and kin selection theories, rooted in prehistoric family structures, continue to shape human social organization. Humans invest heavily in offspring, requiring prolonged care and education. This investment fosters strong family bonds and extends selfish gene theories, favoring behaviors that promote the survival of close genetic relatives. Clan systems, inheritance practices, and caregiving customs reveal echoes of these evolutionary imperatives. Additionally, the cooperative care of children among extended kin or community members has implications for social welfare and communal responsibility. The prehistoric survival imperative to gather and store resources, a practice essential in fluctuating environments, underlies modern economic behaviors as well. The accumulation of wealth, saving for future, uncertainty, and competition for material goods arise as continuations of this drive. While once adaptive, these behaviors pose challenges in contexts of abundant resources and environmental sustainability. The tension between consumption and conservation becomes a critical theme in contemporary societal discussions. A particularly fascinating area is the primal urge for storytelling and meaning-making. Ancient humans created myths and legends as ways of explaining the world's mysteries, instilling collective values, and guiding behavior. Storytelling remains central to human culture, education, religion, and entertainment, shaping collective memory and identity. It is a tool for social cohesion, moral instruction, and psychological coping. Functions intimately tied to cognitive structures evolved for symbolic thought and pattern recognition. On the level of cognition, humans exhibit biases and heuristics shaped in prehistoric contexts, which aid quick decision-making but can also lead to systematic errors. Confirmation bias, the tendency to seek information supporting one's beliefs. The availability heuristic, reacting more strongly to recent or vivid events. And the tendency to overestimate threats are examples of these cognitive legacies. Recognizing their evolutionary roots aids in building awareness, critical thinking, and strategies to mitigate their negative impacts. The human drive for exploration, both intellectual and physical, has been a crucial engine of advancement, deeply anchored in prehistoric curiosity and adaptability. The urge to venture beyond known territories, innovate tools, and solve problems allowed our ancestors to thrive in varied environments and laid the foundation for technological progress. This instinct continues to fuel scientific inquiry, artistic creativity, and the push into new frontiers such as space exploration and digital innovation. Moreover, humans embody an intricate relationship between aggression and cooperation, a dialectic rooted in early survival challenges. While competition for resources and mates could trigger violence, cooperative alliances, gift-giving, and social contracts helped smooth conflicts and build enduring social bonds. Cultures have developed diverse mechanisms, norms, laws, religious ethics to curb destructive impulses and promote mutual benefit. These cultural adaptations overlay but do not erase primal tendencies, creating ongoing tensions and potentials for both conflict and harmony. In the face of modern existential threats, such as climate change, pandemics, and technological disruption, the prehistoric instinct for denial or minimization of overwhelming danger can hinder collective action. It is a protective, psychological mechanism that once allowed individuals to cope with trauma and uncertainty, but now challenges global cooperation and long-term planning. Finally, the integration of prehistoric instincts with modern consciousness shapes the fundamental human condition, balancing base drives with capacity for self-reflection, moral reasoning, and cultural innovation. This interplay defines humanity's unique position as both animal and symbol maker, navigating evolutionary heritage and creating novel futures. By comprehending these primal influences in our minds and societies, we gain invaluable tools for fostering empathy, managing conflict, and guiding progress. Our prehistoric past is not a distant relic, but a living presence informing the complex tapestry of human behavior and history. Building upon the foundation of our prehistoric instincts, human societies through history have exhibited an ongoing negotiation between inherited drives and evolving cultural forms. The complex interplay between primal impulses and constructed social orders has shaped the trajectory of civilizations, informing social structures, norms, and individual conduct alike. One significant domain where prehistoric behaviors manifest is in human kinship and family systems. Kinship, grounded in principles of genetic relatedness and reciprocal care, remains a durable framework for organizing social life. Prehistoric humans relied heavily on extended kin networks for survival, sharing resources, cooperative childcare, and collective defense. These ties fostered strong interdependence as individuals' survival and reproductive success were closely linked to that of relatives. In modern societies, although the family unit has diversified, the fundamental importance of kinship endures psychologically and socially. Emotional bonds between parents and children, siblings, and other relatives sustain networks of support and influence social obligations. Rituals surrounding births, marriages, and funerals reinforce kinship ties and societal continuity, tracing roots to ancestral practices emphasizing group cohesion and genetic propagation. Human mating strategies also bear the imprint of prehistoric evolutionary pressures and socio-ecological contexts. While monogamy is culturally predominant in many societies, variability in marital arrangements, polygyny, polyandry, extended kin alliances, reflect underlying flexibilities in reproductive strategies shaped by resource distribution and social organization. Evolutionary perspectives highlight how mate preferences, jealousy, and parental investment patterns arise from the need to maximize reproductive fitness and offspring survival. Sexual selection influenced human physical and behavioral traits. Exaggerated displays of status, intelligence, or generosity served to attract mates and allies. Courtship, rituals, and social norms regulating sexual behavior often balance these innate drives with cultural imperatives, illustrating the dynamic tension between biology and society. The prehistoric instinct to form hierarchies and dominant structures is deeply etched into human social cognition. Hierarchies emerged to manage competition and cooperation within groups, reducing costly physical conflicts through accepted status markers and authority roles. These patterns are observable in small-scale societies and scaled up in complex states and empires, where leaders wield power through a mix of coercion, persuasion, and symbolic legitimacy. Status competition manifests in myriad cultural arenas, from politics to economics and social networks. People invest significant effort in signaling prestige through material possessions, achievements, or social affiliations, a behavior echoing ancestral displays of fitness and dominance. The social brain is finely tuned to recognize these signals, shaping group inclusion, alliance formation, and leadership emergence. Cooperation, paradoxically, is intertwined with competition. The dual demands of competing for resources and collaborating for collective benefit have driven the evolution of prosocial behaviors such as altruism, fairness, and punishment of free riders. These behaviors are mediated by neural pathways managing empathy and social reward, illustrating evolutionary adaptations supporting complex social life. The regulation of aggression through cultural institutions is another pivotal theme. While innate aggression played adaptive roles in defending territory and status, unchecked violence undermines group survival. Consequentially, humans developed mechanisms to channel aggression constructively: ritual combat, legal systems, moral codes, and conflict resolution practices. These cultural overlays modulate primal impulses, facilitating larger, more peaceful societies. Communication, foundational for collaboration, evolved from instinctive gestures and vocalizations into complex language, the hallmark of Homo sapiens. Language enabled sharing abstract ideas, transmitting knowledge across generations, and constructing myths and ideologies that reinforce shared values and social order. Storytelling remains a vital cultural function, shaping identity, education, and moral frameworks. The prehistoric gift for imagination and symbolic thought extends into artistic and religious expression. Artifacts such as cave paintings and ritual objects evidence early humans' capacity to represent unseen realities and communal beliefs. Spiritual systems address existential questions, offering order and meaning grounded in deeply felt experiences linked to prehistoric cognition. Ritual practices unify groups and mediate emotions, sustaining social cohesion. Cognitive biases persisting from prehistoric times influence how individuals and societies process information and make decisions. The tendency to favor familiar in groups, confirm existing beliefs, and respond strongly to threat cues served survival, but also contribute to modern problems like misinformation, prejudice, and conflict. Awareness and education are crucial tools for mitigating these inherited limitations. Human curiosity and the drive to explore continual new horizons have been essential to species survival and success. This exploratory impulse supported migration, technological innovation, and cultural diversification. From crossing vast deserts and oceans to advancing complex sciences. Curiosity fuels adaptation to changing environments and challenges. The tension between the instinct for immediate survival and the capacity for delayed gratification has also influenced human progress. While instincts prioritize quick responses to threats or rewards, cultural evolution encourages foresight and planning, enabling environmental stewardship, social contracts, and scientific inquiry aimed at long-term benefits. Environmental relationships and ecological awareness echo prehistoric dependencies and respect for natural cycles. Although transformed by industrial society, human psychological preferences related to natural landscapes and resource management retain ancient roots. These instincts inform contemporary environmental ethics and sustainability debates. Lastly, the ongoing negotiation between prehistoric instincts and technological transformation frames much of contemporary human experience. New technologies amplify capacities for connection, mobility, and control, but also pose questions about alienation, inequality, and ethical responsibility. Understanding the biological basis of human behavior offers insight into navigating these challenges prudently. In sum, prehistoric instincts continue to shape the contours of human life, influencing social organization, psychology, culture, and behavior. The dynamic interplay between ancient drives and cultural evolution is a central theme in the human story, reflecting resilience, creativity, and complexity inherent in our species. The journey through prehistoric instincts reveals that beneath the layers of culture, technology, and social complexity lies an enduring biological and psychological foundation shaped over hundreds of thousands of years. These primal drives, fear and aggression, loyalty and empathy, curiosity and competition, have persisted because they once conferred crucial survival and reproductive advantages. Yet, their expression today occurs within vastly different contexts, requiring continual negotiation between inherited tendencies and modern realities. Human history, in many ways, is the story of this dynamic balance between instinctual impulses and the cultural inventions that shape, constrain, and transcend them. The great civilizations arose not by erasing prehistoric behaviors, but by channeling them into new forms, from tribal dominance hierarchies transformed into monarchies and democracies, from fear of strangers modulated by diplomacy and global trade, from competition bridled by law and ethics, and from empathy extended beyond kin through religion, philosophy, and human rights. In the contemporary world, these ancient instincts manifest in diverse ways. Modern technologies and social institutions amplify some impulses, status seeking through social media, tribalism expressed politically, competition intensified by global economics, while offering tools to mitigate others, education combating prejudice, coordinated systems addressing conflict, public health campaigns challenging instinctual denial. This interplay unfolds against a backdrop of rapid change, environmental crises, digital revolutions, and global interconnections challenge traditional ways of balancing primal drives. The prehistoric legacy also illuminates key challenges and opportunities for humanity's future. Our instincts for short-term survival sometimes conflict with the long-term stewardship required to preserve the planet. Overcoming such tensions demands heightened self-awareness, cultural evolution, and collective action that respect both our biological heritage and ethical aspirations. Moreover, as artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and other advanced technologies reshape human capacities, questions arise about how these interventions might alter or interact with deep-rooted instincts. Will we learn to better manage aggression, fear, and tribalism? Can empathy and cooperation be enhanced? How might evolving cognitive landscapes influence identity and meaning grounded in ancient neural architectures yet extended into new forms? Reflecting on prehistoric instincts also compels recognition of our shared humanity. Across cultures and eras, these common threads weave people together, a biological kinship that transcends superficial divisions. Embracing this shared inheritance may foster empathy, respect, and a sense of global community crucial for addressing collective challenges. Education emerges as a vital frontier, informing individuals and societies about the origins, functions, and limits of our instincts, and equipping them with the skills to modulate behaviors adaptively. Psychological insight, cultural pluralism, and scientific understanding combine to empower more conscious navigation of primal drives. Finally, the enduring spark of human creativity, rooted in curiosity, imagination, and symbolic thought, offers hope for transformation. This spark enabled ancestors to invent tools, art, language, and social systems not dictated solely by instinct, but enriched by reflection and aspiration. It is this capacity that allows humanity to shape its destiny consciously, honoring prehistoric roots while building futures aligned with justice, sustainability, and flourishing. In sum, the story of prehistoric instincts is not one of determinism, but of continuity and potential. These primal forces form the groundwork on which the edifice of human culture and history stands. Sometimes a source of struggle, sometimes a guide toward connection and growth. Understanding and integrating this legacy is essential for meeting the complexities of existence and forging pathways toward a thriving shared future. Thank you for journeying through this deep and expansive exploration with me.